Hello, hello, NWI. Welcome to Bluer by the Lake, the podcast that explores region life through a blue lens. I'm your host, Tracy Martin, and joining us today is Ferdinand Alvarez Esquire. Ferdinand is a Democrat and member of the Portage City Council. Ferdinand, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Glad to be here.
So before I say another word, I've got to know, inquiring minds are asking, what's the Esquire in your Facebook all about?
Yes. So, I'm a criminal defense attorney by trade. I practice law for a firm called Campbell Law PC in Crown Point, Indiana. I work with a gentleman named Attorney Mike Campbell. I've been doing that for about the past almost a year now. And before that, I was a deputy prosecutor in both Lake County and then in Porter County after that. I also serve as a public defender in the Lake County court. So Esquire is a title that they give that attorneys use to sound fancy.
Oh,
And
it's
so I put it,
fabulous, dude. If you have the opportunity to put Esquire after your name and you take it, that's fabulous.
right. I mean, I spent so many years in school. It's like
You earned that
all I
Esquire.
got was this piece of paper on the wall. No, at least I get to use those letters after my age.
A few weeks ago, everyone in NWI opened their electric bills, and the collective gasp could be heard in Chicago. Now, this is, of course, the first billing cycle after the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission, or otherwise known as the IURC, approved NIPSCO's rate hike request. So, I don't know about you, but my heart skipped some beats when I saw my damage. How bad was yours?
Oh gosh, it's about $200 more than usual. And I'll play devil's advocate and say that, we did have a stretch where it was 100 degrees outside for quite some time, but everybody's feeling it. And so it's
Yeah.
tough. And it's yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Ours was a hefty hike as well. And, you know, that it's not necessarily as easy as people think to absorb a $200 unexpected bill in your mailbox. And it's not just NWI that's feeling it. The IRUC has been pretty busy lately. According to the Citizens Action Commission, and I'm going to link to this, folks, so don't worry. Across the state, we've seen a 17% utility rate increase. But here in NWI, well, we're special. NIPSCO decided to honor us with a 27% increase compared to this time last year, which about for
Mhm.
the average NWIN results to about 50 a month. Um, I know that's an honor I could have done without. How does that extra financial burden impact the people of Portage?
Yeah. So I mean, if the average Portage resident has to pay an extra $50. Well, that's, an extra time that they can't go to Bigsby Coffee on Willow Creek Road, or they can't have breakfast at Blueberry Hill Pancake House or at Tate's or Portage House of Pancakes, or they can't have dinner at Capo's or at Longhorn, or they can't go to the movies over at Imagine Theaters. So many things that are involved in our community or that we have in our community that now people will have to sacrifice and do without because right they have to pay their utility bills. And I mean, things like that cause economic downturns, and so we're hoping that that won't happen, but it's already been projected. I mean, just look at what they've been saying. So yeah, it's been tough, but it's going to cause people to sacrifice more, and our Portage businesses are going to ultimately be the ones that suffer.
So, in terms of where they fall on the economic spectrum between the 1% and the rest of us, what do the peoples of Portage's incomes look like? What sort of how hard of a hit is this going to be for the
It's
people in
going to be
there?
tough. No, it's going to be tough. I mean, Portage is fortunate that we have a um, relatively strong working class populace, so a lot of our residents live in Portage and work in the steel mills, and they have good union jobs where they make decent money, can afford a house and a family. But um we have constituents who can't afford the increases in their trash bills or the increases in their city fees. And so an additional $50 to a family or a household that doesn't have it. I mean,
Yeah.
you what
And
can you expect from some people? And so that's gonna be tough. It's gonna I keep saying the word tough. It's gonna be really unfortunate when people can't pay their bills or can't, meet the necessities of life because of increased everything at this point.
Portage's city services take a dive because you've got funding cuts, because you've got economic impacts all up and down your business sectors. Like you
Right.
said, if your constituents can't go out and partake in the local economy suffers. And if the local economy suffers, so too the taxes that the city is able to generate to provide the kind of services. And winter is coming. We need roads plowed. You've got fixed expenses that are inalterable. So
Absolutely.
so it looks like the rest of your town council agrees with you. You guys recently passed a resolution to ask the IRUC to reject NIPSCO's rate hike request. Well, we saw what they did. What did they say to you? Were they just
They
like,
said, they said, "Thanks, but no thanks." Yeah, and, that was a citizen-led, process. Some it was
oh,
brought to
wow.
our attention, and we, acted upon it, and, of course, right, I wish the entire world would sometimes, listen to the Portage City Council more often, but, right, it doesn't work that way, and so now we're stuck with the rates that we have, and in a world where everything is increasing, it only adds to people's burdens when some people have a philosophy that government should perhaps help people's lessen people's burdens, not add to them. But then you have some people who claim that government is the burden, and those are the people raising people's rates. So make
Yeah.
that make sense. But hey,
Ah,
what do I what do
government
I
that helps
what do I know,
you.
right? Yeah.
What a quaint notion. Dude, I'm this is going to be a tangent. Brace for it. But for the
Yeah.
love of God, like, all right, so you don't want government. What do you want? Like, do you want to, where are you going to live? Are you going to live in a cave and like stand at the door with spears to keep the hordes away? Like,
Yeah.
what's your
And
alternative?
yeah, it's only gonna get worse, and from like a government funding perspective, it's like with this new, SB1, right? Everything is going to
Oh my
be
God.
cut, right? Funding is gonna be cut, budgets are gonna be cut, and people will have to decide whether or not they want to elect representatives who are either in favor of cutting services or increasing fines and fees and taxes on city services. And so to the household who can't afford any increases, what would they say? But to the household that lives in a nice community, in a nice subdivision that relies on timely trash pickup and prompt fire service and police service, it becomes more of a dilemma, and it's only going to get worse. And that's why, fortunately, myself and others on the council who have some experience are here to guide us through it, and along with the mayor's help as well, we work together and try to plan for the future.
So, well, and I'm glad you did that. Because what's happened seems to be a piece of what IRUC's attitude is towards most Hoosiers across the board. And of course, everyone should know it is not just Portage alone that received these rate hikes. And it's also not just, the Portage City Council that's hearing from people. Town managers and mayors and council members from Gary to Michigan City and everywhere in between have been inundated with these kind of calls.
Mhm.
Um, which I'm sure it's frustrating. Because ultimately like you said, there's not really anything you can do that you haven't done.
Right. There were, public hearings, um, which were, to my knowledge, pretty well attended. But did everyone come out that probably could have? I'm sure they didn't. And looking back on it, right, I'm sure a lot more people would have been vocal if they understood the impact it had on their pocketbook. And Sometimes people don't read the paper. Sometimes when they're scrolling on their phones, they kind of go past that article. Sometimes you click on the article and you can't access it because there's a paywall and you just can't read it. So hey, I think I heard about some kind of increase,
Yeah.
but I clicked on the article and I couldn't read it. So there's a it seems as if, the party in control relies on a populace, on constituents that are not informed, because then it makes their job easier, and what they get to continue to do what they do and continue to make things harder for the people that maybe they should be making life a little bit easier for. But again, right, a novel subject, something that
What
you
a
know
concept. A
imagine, yeah,
government
what
that
a
serves the
concept,
people.
oh my gosh, yeah.
Woohoo! Yeah, it's amazing how, unpopular services are with a certain cohort of people until the first snowstorm and 94 isn't plowed because there aren't any,
Right.
and everybody's bickering because this city is like, "It's not my job to plow 94," or you don't have a truck capable of handling that sort of winter's coming, folks, and,
Right.
it's the
I
roads
used
need to be
to
plowed.
before I was elected to the council, just like anybody, construct winter and construction season, right? Every winter the roads fall apart and every summer they spend the entire summer fixing them. And I used to get upset. Oh, I got to go this way now instead of going this way. I have to turn here or this road's closed. But when you think about it now, or when I think about it now, it's like one from a public management perspective, from a fiscal whatever. It's one is, wow, this road is really going to look nice when it's done. It's going to last us for a number of years, so we won't have to replace it for at least 2 decades, maybe three. And so you look at certain things like that differently, and it's going to be harder to make those kind of projects happen at the price or at the cost that we're used to, because now everything's going to go up, and it's the consumers and the constituents, the voters, that are going to foot the bill. It's going to be unfortunate, but looks like
Well,
that's what we're doing.
I guess that's when we get to enjoy saying, "How you like them apples?" You know? But unfortunately, we all have to eat from the same basket. So it's about time to get to the tea, and this is where it starts brewing. So hang on. This is going to take a minute, everyone, to explain. So bear with me here. On July 28th, your mayor, Councilman Ferdinand Alvarez, his name's Austin Bonta, made a public Facebook post. And I'm summarizing here, folks. I'm going to try to find the original text to post in the episode notes. So the mayor is explaining to his constituents, from whom he heard en masse after these rate hikes came through, that no, he didn't personally increase everyone's NIPSCO's bills. He'd fix it if he could, but because of the way that the IRUC is designed, it's a fully politically appointed board. They can pretty much tell everyone who complains to go blow. And then Mayor Bonta called for the IRUC to contain at least 2 elected members, surmising that this would be the great way to ensure a little more public accountability. Now, to me, that seems like Democracy 101, but to State Rep Ed Soliday, well, this was just beyond the. I'm just going to read his text to Mayor Bonta. Um, I want to thank you for your enlightened comments on the IRUC and rate increases. Three exclamation marks. I am most appreciative that you took a strong position to replace the nationally top rated IRUC regulatory commission with an elected board. This gets funny. That way we could have any fool, sir, who will pander to the public noise boxes. That's constituents, by the way. I promise. I promise I will work hard to make certain your city never gets any revenue increases. Three more quotation exclamation marks quote. So Ed's got a lot of feelings there to unpack, particularly given that he is one of the elected public noise box panders he's so afraid of. But let's just go straight to that last one. I promise I will work hard to make certain your city never gets any revenue increases. Um that's a shocking thing for any elected official to say to another in writing. Um but what's what is Representative Soliday's skin in this particular game? I know that he's the chair of the House Utilities, Energy, and Telecommunications Committee, but the IRUC is an independent commission last time I checked. Yes?
Right. So yeah, they're, independent of the legislature, but right, selected by the governor, and then what is it, three members of the same party, two of an opposing party. So it's clear as day, right, that this entire rate increase is the product of the Republican Party, right? The Republican Party controls uh, the board, right? They make the appointments, they have the votes, they put it through, and ultimately, um, they have to own that. And now, right, it's you know, they're crying foul, and now Mr. Soliday is picking a fight with Mr. Bonta, and we get to watch it all play out. Lucky
So
us.
I know, right? Maybe we should go and book the Imagine Theater, which just a shout out, folks. Imagine is where I
I love that.
always
Yes.
go for a couple
Yes.
of reasons. It's always lovely. It's the food is great, the pizza is great, and Imagine, in case you didn't know this, is extremely generous. They are one of the few theaters that will make donations of tickets to nonprofits, and they have a lot of really great initiatives. They run a lot of special things. So plug out for Imagine. You're really lucky to
Yes.
have one.
Thank
Thank,
you.
thank
Yes.
you for bringing
OMG.
them to us. All
We
right, so
we'll get them
digression.
sponsoring the next podcast.
Yeah, right.
We'll reach out for a donation.
All right.
But no, thank you
Sorry,
for shouting
sorry,
out. No.
Imagine Theater.
Yeah.
All right, but here's the funny thing. Uh, so Representative Soliday is a Republican, and last time I checked, so too is Mayor Bonta. But so, does it surprise you to see Representative Soliday treating one of his own this way?
Um Not really, and only because, and that's not a slight at Mr. Soliday, because to be honest, I don't know Mr. Soliday, but I know that politics, how do they say it? Politics ain't beanbag, right? It's a hardball sport. And Mr. Soliday, who has a lot of influence in Indianapolis, I'm sure doesn't like to hear about or see the next generation of Republican leaders uh, with a platform. And then when that platform affects something that they have a uh, uh, authority over, something that they work on downstate, well, then they're going to get upset. And it just shows a generational divide, in my opinion.
Hmm.
And it also just shows a lack of judgment. I'm trying to use my words carefully, but
Yes.
it also shows sometimes social media isn't the best thing in the world. And, the mayor of Portage, he's very active on social media. If you send him a question, he'll answer it immediately and or relatively immediately. But he's very active and people really do appreciate that.
Mhm.
But for Mr. Soliday, sending him a message on Facebook in a threatening manner, whether that's, saying, well, I'll make sure you're never reelected, or saying that I'm going to make sure that your community doesn't get any money from my official actions, those are maybe things that you shouldn't put on Facebook. The mayor has quite the platform. He can influence a lot of people's um, way of thinking about certain issues. And
Hmm.
the elders in the Republican Party, they clearly have taken notice of that. And
That's
so
interesting.
that's interesting. It just shows that, yeah, social media can sometimes be detrimental. It's a lesson to the previous generation of elected officials or the current generation that, yeah, they should maybe watch what they put on social media, especially when it's, private in nature. Because it turns out, right, the little buttons on the side, you press them and then it screenshots it, and then now everybody can see it. Now, yeah, now it's there forever. And
It's
so,
gone,
oops,
Ed. It's all
yeah,
gone
right.
now.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah, that's unfortunate for him because I'm sure he meant for that conversation to be private. I'm sure he had no
Sure.
intention of, having that blasted out and having now his staff respond to it and the staff of NIPSCO and the staff of the IURC. But
Hey,
learning experience, right?
I guess so.
Will I be
You know,
upset to watch two Republicans go to war against each other? Not
no,
really.
no, we'll talk about that. We'll enjoy that
Yeah.
Schadenfreude in a minute. But before we get there, Soliday is shrugging this off as, my bad. I was mad and I let my fingers get away from me. But I don't know that anybody in Portage can just shrug this threat off as friends don't let friends text when they're ticked. Again, that could very well have been, Representative Soliday just, blowing off steam, but he's an elected official in a high position in the state. In what ways could he impact Portage? Should he take a leaf from the MAGA playbook and exact revenge?
Yeah, so I mean, really it would be him um calling his friend the governor, who then would call his friends the appointees to the IURC. That's the only way I can think of. Officially, can he really do the things that he's threatening? Probably not. But can he make some backroom deals perhaps and take some channels and paths to make the mayor's job harder, to make our local state representatives' jobs harder, to make the city council members in our local municipalities' jobs harder? Of course he can. And you could do that a number of ways through other legislation that doesn't involve um, utility rates. And so it's a almost like, what was that show, House of Cards, was it? Where
Yes.
it's, very,
Yeah.
behind the scenes, a
Mhm.
lot of that going on. But, I could see that happening in Indianapolis. It's when one party has become uh, in control for so many decades without any checks and balances, then yeah, they feel that they could do pretty much whatever the heck they want. And who's going to stop them? They don't even have enough Democrats to break a quorum. So if they didn't show up like they did in Texas, that wouldn't
Mhm.
even have an effect in the state of Indiana. And so we have to then explain to our residents what's going on and who in fact is in charge of this, because it's be very easy for the Republicans to just spin it and say, "Oh, we're not doing this. We're, for you guys." And then if a population is not informed, if they can't read articles, if they don't have Facebook, if they don't, scroll, or if they just scroll and they don't stop and read things, well, then they're going to say, "Yeah, it was Joe Biden's fault." You know what I mean? It was Kamala's fault. And that's become effective for Republicans to just blame everything on Biden or blame everything on, whomever. Um, it's become quite a situation. And what I was getting at earlier, and I kind of lost my train of thought. I'm glad I remembered is, you know, to not to bring up Mayor Bonta again, but I do give him credit because nowadays, for all most young Republican elected officials, the race to the top is usually by trying to simultaneously be what, a race to the bottom. Who
Yes.
can be the most hateful, the
Yeah.
most spiteful, the most uh punitive, who can punish the most people through legislation and through acts, and really, yeah, fire up the base. And the mayor has been the opposite of that. And he has been, someone who shows that he has compassion and can work with people from a wide spectrum of backgrounds and things like that. And so God bless him for not being a hateful, spiteful MAGA Republican, because nowadays that's the only way to get known, is to be the loudest, to be the most disruptive. Um, and so maybe he's a sign that that's just a phase and it won't be the permanent norm as it is right now. So sorry that I went off on a little tangent, but I just
No,
thought of
that's
that right
great. And you
now.
took me to exactly where I wanted to go with this, which is part of what intrigued me so much about this story is the fact that Portage is a purple community. And so much of NWI is a purple community. I live, and contrary to belief, folks, Munster, that's where I live, is purple, very purple. Um, and to me, as a Democrat, there's certain bitter amusement in watching Republicans eat their own, but in a a small purple community like Portage, that can lead to real pain, both in financial impacts and in community divide. So, how has the community at large responded to these interactions between your moderate mayor and your more MAGAfied Representative Soliday? I don't know exactly the color of Ed's red, but anyone that's behaving like this, they're showing a certain tend there. Are you seeing any sort of Republican reaction or any community reaction to this, like this Republican on Republican conflict?
Yes, and so, of course, it's mostly on social media, because that's where the mayor has his biggest, following. But Portage citizens, at least for those, couple of days following the announcement, man, they really got united and they really knew who to direct, their ire towards. And it was, towards Representative Soliday's office. It was towards the IURC. It was towards NIPSCO, even the governor's office. I mean, and thankfully the mayor told everybody, I believe he told everybody where to contact, or there was some type of organized campaign, so they knew where to contact. And just showed a community getting together and not putting up with, being looked down upon by a state legislator that doesn't even represent us, who's just mad that our mayor is going on Facebook and giving his opinion. I mean, come on, you know.
Yeah. Well, you don't get to hold a monopoly yet on what people can express in the United States of America. And going back to a little bit to that point you made about the fact that your young mayor is moderate and not embracing the more MAGA trend of sprinting as fast as you can to the bottom of ugliness. But are we beginning to see the cracks that everyone in the Democratic Party and normal thinking people are desperate to see? Are normal thinking Republicans who just want to live and breathe and not pay their half their paycheck to power Amazon's data centers, are they finally seeing the consequences of going along with extremist conservative policies at the state level?
Oh, well, Tracy, all I can say is I hope so, right? And that's all any of us can say is like, I
I
hope
yeah.
so. But the reality, in my opinion at least, is like in today's, hateful political climate, uh, moderate Republicans or sensible Republicans or just people who are affected by this and by other actions by Republicans, um, still won't actually vote Democrat because either they think that Democrats represent the fringes of society that they are unwilling to accept, whether that be, um, use your imagination as to what Republicans hate. What do MAGA people hate? There's a whole list of them.
Everything, my
And right.
God.
And so, therefore, if they think that a Democrat represents that, they will still support the Republican Party because they hate the same people or they hate the same things. And so, well, I might pay, $50 a month extra every month, and that's probably just going to go up, and my wages are going down, and, my community has a terrible quality of life. And I'm not talking about Portage, I'm talking about somewhere else in the state,
Yeah.
clearly.
Yeah.
But you know, once once they realize that, yeah, my party that's been in control for what, 2 decades, 2.5 decades, is not really looking out for my best interests, then maybe, yeah, they will see that the Democratic Party, um, deserves a chance to make people's lives better. But that's what we do. That's why we do what we do, right?
Yeah.
That's why we talk to voters. That's why we create podcasts. That's why we try to get a message out to people so that they understand what's at stake. And I mean, right, if we don't do it, who's going to do it? That's yeah.
If not us, who? And if not now, when?
There you go.
Alrighty. So, Ferdinand, do you have Any last thoughts to share either with the people of Portage or anybody that's struggling with, opening their bill and seeing $200? 50 is a lowball figures, folks. Most people experienced a much sharper jump. Anything you want to say?
Ah, remember who is in charge, and that's the Republicans down at the State House. And they are the ones who are imposing this on people. Democratic Party, we're fighting it. We're trying to fight for people at all levels. We're doing that here at the local level with Councilman Zilli, Councilman Gina Geishurst, myself, Clerk Treasurer Liz Modesto, trying to fight for people at the local level and make their lives a little bit better. It's only going to get harder in the years to come, and we want people to be aware of that because it'll be easy for them to blame whoever is in charge. And they need to know that at that level, the Republicans are in charge. They have a supermajority at the state house. They have had that for, a supermajority for what, more than a decade now. And they've been in control for since what, '04, I believe it was the last time we had a Democratic governor with Governor Kernan, and he lost in '04. So it's just things won't get better unless we make the effort ourselves. And if that means registering new voters, if that means knocking on people's doors, if that means attending fundraisers and writing checks, and which um, is not easy for everybody to do. But if we can find a way, our own way, to contribute and to help, um, the world will be a better place. Very
Um,
good.
Alrighty, so folks, that is our wrap. I'll post links to everything Ferdinand mentioned in the podcast page, and as well as a link where people in his constituency can get a hold of him. And before we go, I need to do some announcements super quick. I want to take a moment to thank everyone for getting this podcast to its 10th episode. I know, right?
Fun.
So all the requests, folks, and responses I've gotten are overwhelming, and I'm really grateful. But I'm gonna do the quick plug before we all go. You knew this was coming, but right here, this is Bluer by the Lake. I do everything myself: research, fact checking, guest sourcing, logistics, recording, social media. All of it is so much work, and I pay for all of it too. So if you value this new blue voice in NWI, and if you have spare five a month to offer, please consider becoming a paid subscriber on Substack. That's the only place where I take donations. I'm not throwing that up everywhere. It's just, if you find value in this, and you can spare it, just go to bluerbythelake.substack.com and either click the subscribe button or the upgrade button if you're already a subscriber. All right. That's it, Ferdinand. Have a lovely rest of your night. Everyone else,
Thank
thanks
you.
and
You
see you
do the
again.
same. Take care. Bye
Bye.
bye.